Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Last month, the United States Space Force turned 5 years old, and the service that initially drew derision from the legacy media is now firmly established as a critical part of our national defense. Over the past 5 years, the Space Force has made significant advancements in defense network connectivity and joint space operations to strengthen the U.S. space domain presence. As the department continues to digitize in 2025, it must be able to address significant data challenges and rapidly increasing cyber threats to fortify defense communication systems and maintain a competitive advantage over foreign adversaries. Sev1Tech is a company providing IT modernization, cloud cybersecurity, engineering, fielding, training, and program support services. Their offerings span across defense intelligence, homeland security, health, space, and commercial markets. My guest on this edition of the Xterra podcast is Michael Fry, General Manager of Sev1Tech's Air and Space Force Division. And Michael, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Tom, for having me.
It's my pleasure. Happy to have you here as we kick off 2025. Let's start with an overview of the Sev1Tech and its primary mission.
Yeah, so Sev1Tech, we're a leading DoD and federal contractor in the IT space. Really, our core capabilities are around IT modernization, DevSecOps, cloud, and C5ISR. We've been around for 15 years this February, so we're celebrating our 15-year anniversary. It's really exciting. During that time, we've moved from a small business to a large business. And really, one of my favorite things about Sev1Tech is we're delivery focused. We do what needs to be done to ensure that the customers have a successful mission. So, yeah, that's Sev1Tech in a nutshell.
So the company was recently awarded a $188 million contract by the Space Force Systems Command to expand the Mesh-1 terrestrial network. So what is Mesh-1 and why is that significant?
So Mesh-1 is a low latency, wide area network, so a WAN transport network for critical weapon system, mission systems across the Air Force. And our job is to move their traffic extremely efficiently across the global terrain to make sure that data can get from satellites to analysis to decision makers very quickly. Think of it like your internet service provider that you have at home. You want to get on the internet, you want to be able to connect to other people and get out and do things. That's what we do for mission critical systems. The big difference there is we don't connect to the internet. We're building out all that infrastructure, so it's very secure and very fast for those weapon systems. So that the data doesn't take 5 seconds to get across the country. It is there as fast as it can be through the speed of light.
The initial contract was let in 2021 to develop Mesh-1. So what advancements have been made in that terrestrial network over the past 5 years, and how does that benefit the Space Force?
So we got to start brand new a few years back. So when that was initially let, there was nothing. So we went from an idea on paper that our Space Force customer had on connecting and like you talked about earlier, bringing all the data together so that mission systems can work with the data, make analysis and decisions and take action. So we've introduced an open architecture using segment routing. We've brought in the procurement and built up all the sites. We've delivered 23 of the 25 sites that were in that initial Pathfinder effort over 3 years, which is a huge monumental task for us. Super exciting. We've integrated some of the latest advancements in technology, specifically around zero trust. That was really important to our customer and obviously really important to the DoD now is making sure those things get in there. And it was I don't want to say easy, but easier for us to do being a greenfield architecture. We could build those things in from the beginning. And then two of the other things I want to highlight that we've implemented into the the Mesh1T terrestrial network is our customer portal. So we are ensuring that what we are doing is available to our customers to see. They can always see what's going on with the network, which is something new that a lot of networks don't provide. Usually, a network is just a black hole. You plug into the wall, and you hope that your traffic gets to the other end. And kind of building on top of that is the next gen monitoring. We see every packet that traverses that network. We know how much latency is for every packet. We know how fast it gets across the network. We know when it's dropped, when it makes it there. So it really provides some intelligence to our customers that they've never seen before.
Wasn't the internet itself initially developed by the Defense Department for just this kind of work, and then all of a sudden the general public got a hold of it, and it is what it is now?
Yep, the original internet was developed by the government, and it's morphed over the years, and it was good that the commercial market eventually took it over. They were able to see the benefits and scale that quickly and provide probably faster services than I think the government would have been able to keep up with at the time. But yeah, it did start with the government, and then I feel like we're bringing it back around and redoing it now.
So that kind of leads me to wonder, first of all, how do you prevent that from happening again with this kind of a closed network? And, you know, the bad guys are going to be out there. They're going to be looking at ways to try to get into it. You say it's disconnected from the commercial internet. How do you, without giving away company secrets, how do you prevent the bad actors from getting in?
So to answer your first question on how do we, I think really it's a scaling issue in making this continue to grow. We do a lot with our internal processes. We like to call them DevNetOps instead of DevSecOps, really automating how we build in our configurations and then automatically deploy those out to our network devices so that the network can scale and continue to grow without becoming stagnant, having update issues or security problems. That's kind of the big focus, is scaling and the integration capability there. The other piece is to your point, there are a lot of threats that are going to want to take advantage of this network as we continue to grow, as we continue to have critical mission systems on this network and their traffic, their data. So we have built in quite robust cybersecurity capabilities into the network where we are constantly monitoring. So I discussed in the last piece about our next generation monitoring. Mm-hmm. That's not just for the network piece and performance monitoring. We have two flows of traffic, one to the next generation monitoring for traffic performance. The other goes to our security guys. And that's where they are constantly monitoring every packet, looking at every access request, looking at everything that we're doing. And it's not just from a logical network layer when we're looking at all that. We also have built in automatic pieces to our physical monitoring. So every site that we deploy to, we're deploying monitoring of physical access. We know when racks have been opened. We know when temperatures change. We know availability. We've done a lot of that. And then kind of the last piece on there as well is we're building a lot of resiliency into the network. So if there are some adversaries that can get in, can take advantage of some of those weaknesses, if we have any, we have resilient comms to reroute and keep that data moving in a different path for our customers so that their missions can continue to happen.
You've mentioned a couple of these things in passing in your previous answers, but let's go a little bit deeper into the DevSecOps, the cloud and zero trust, and talk about those in terms of emerging challenges and the future of the Space Force.
Yeah, of course. So DevSecOps, I think, is going to continue to expand. We see that in every one of the missions that we work with, every software factory that we work with. The Space Force is actually building the infrastructure on these weapon systems to support applications that are being developed in software factories so they come on. It's not where they're continuing to build very purpose-driven, siloed applications that can only run on these types of infrastructures. They're working together and they're continuing to build that out. So from a DevSecOps perspective, I continue to see that expand. The software factories in the Space Force are going to continue to grow. I just saw an opportunity for the software factory Kobayashi Maru, which is the Space Force's software factory. They're working to expand that and those capabilities to continue to align with the Air Force and the Department of Air Force Platform One and others. So DevSecOps, I think, is here to stay and will continue to be a great thing. One of the challenges I see with DevSecOps, and it's not just a DevSecOps challenge, but it's an everyone challenge, is the ATO process. If you're familiar with that, accrediting systems is going to continue to be a slow process. DevSecOps is a very fast, agile process. So continuing to work through those challenges. A lot of times when it's more about policy, the technical challenges have been worked out. It's really getting policy to catch up to those things. So I think the Space Force realizes this. They have quite a few initiatives to help with this, but we need to continue to work on our ATO policy challenges when we are talking about DevSecOps and enabling those software factories to continue to move fast and deliver applications that help our mission systems move quickly. When it comes to the cloud, I see mixed signs coming from the cloud, not only from the military, our DoD side, but also from our commercial side. We have a lot of commercial services in Sev1Tech. A lot of leadership is looking both ways. They are understanding the benefits of the cloud and the things that can bring them, but they're also looking at, over the last 5+ years of adoption in the Space Force, on some of the costs that are starting to pop up, some of the security concerns, some of the data location concerns. So they're now starting to rethink. The Department of Air Force had a cloud-first motto. If you can put it in the cloud, put it in the cloud, right? So now they're looking at more of, what's a hybrid model? What data really should be in the cloud? What should we develop in the cloud? And what do we want to really protect on premise or behind a gate, behind a base? Where do we want to keep our data? And leadership is really thinking about that. So as we progress down the cloud path, I really think leadership in the Space Force is going to have to continue to look at the architectures and where they put their data and where it's located and how they want to use their data moving forward. But we're moving things to the cloud every day for the Mesh1T contract for our Air Force organization that we support. So it's here to stay as well. But I think there's going to be some conversations about where data lives when it comes to cloud. And then
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, but I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm wondering how many of the 18 to 25-year-olds coming into the Space Force get the Kobayashi Maru reference.
Yeah, I don't know how many actually get it. And, myself, I'm definitely a little older than 18 to 25, but between the Space Force and Air Force, they're always mixing up Star Wars and Star Trek and in a lot of their naming conventions. So, it's fun to see where what pieces and parts they want to name their programs based on some of those things.
How important, Michael, is the bandwidth, latency, time to data access, and the traditional measures that to successful networks? How important is that? And secondarily, do security concerns impede those traditional parameters?
Yeah, great question. So security is obviously always the most important. It is most important, but we kind of put that ahead of what you just asked about latency, bandwidth, and time to data, which is ultimately more important to some of our customers. And I come from a security background. That's what I've done for the last 10 years. So answering this question the way that I'm answering it is really hard for me. But when you think about some of the programs that we work with. Missile warning, for example, they are detecting missiles from satellite, or satellites are detecting missiles across the world for ourselves, for our partners. And when you bring that detection down, you analyze it, and you have to move that data to someone who's going to make a decision and then someone who's going to take action on it. Yeah, latency and time to data access is more important than security. We encrypt everything; it's all safe, so I'm not worried about that. But the real challenge here is getting that data across our networks faster than what can be provided by things like the internet. If an email message goes across the US and it takes, I don't know, 5 seconds to make a bunch of hops and get to its endpoint, do you really care? No, you get your email. If a missile warning, an incoming missile message takes 5 seconds to get across the US, we care, right? We need to be as fast. We have to have the ability to act on that missile faster than anyone, right? We work with partners who are monitoring our airspace at any given time. If your ability to deploy F-35s to intercept something is 5 seconds to delay, that could be the time that could make the difference between, stopping an adversary from taking action on us versus not. So yeah, there's a lot of times where the latency and speed to data access is most important, and that's really what we're doing with Mesh1T in this network is we procure our own comms, our own underlay, and build up our own infrastructure so our government can prioritize and make sure that data from point A to point B is getting there as fast as physics allows us to get there, right? So, I mean, we have incredible speeds across the country and across the globe that you are not going to realize in other networks.
My guest is Michael Fry, General Manager of Sev1Tech's Air and Space Force Division. Take a moment right now to click subscribe to be sure you don't miss any of our podcasts, or if you're watching on YouTube, any of the videos from Xterra, the Journal of Space Commerce. Michael, let's talk about you for just a minute. How did you get into this business, and what has been your experience working with the Space Force?
Yeah, my military background's the Navy. So I was in the Navy as an IT person, and when I got out of the Navy, I was looking around, where do I want to move, and ended up landing in Colorado. And there was a lot of Air Force work here, AF space work, Air Force Space Command work here at the time. I got started with the missile warning community and started learning a lot about what they do and how they protect our nation and our and other nations that we are friends with. And that was 15 years ago, and been in it ever since. My background in IT really helped me with communications, cybersecurity for those programs, and then eventually just kind of worked my way up through Sev1Tech to the general manager position, where I get to interact with so many of these things every day. So it's the Space Force has been a great organization to work with, especially as they're standing up new. Like I mentioned, I came here when it was Air Force. I was actually at Air Force Space Command down in Colorado Springs when the Space Force was stood up. And so one day, my email was airforce.mil. The next day it was spaceforce.mil. So it was a pretty exciting time. Lots of generals in and out of our building, lots of celebrations of the new Space Force and what it was going to be, what was going to be our mission, what we were going to protect. And it's been a great experience over the last 5 years. I think the interesting things about the Space Force is they've embraced being born digital, which I think is a really cool thing. They know they're starting in a digital age versus trying to update a lot of their infrastructure. But on the other hand, they've inherited a lot of old infrastructure from the Air Force that they need to continue to bring up to speed and bring into that digital age. And the other thing that I've really enjoyed working with the Space Force on is their transparency, their leadership, and Their missions have been really transparent in how they interact with us as contractors and enabling the ability to provide the capabilities that we can to meet the challenges that they need for their next mission. So it's been really good working with the Space Force over the last 5 years.
I know, Michael, that your particular area of expertise is in the defense industry, but you're also part of a company, and it's a part of what we call the new space economy. How much overlap is there with what Sev1Tech does between the military side of it and the commercial space industry?
Seen a lot of overlap, and it was really shown to me we're at Space Industry Days a month or two ago, and I know all of our customers we work with in commercial, and some of those familiar names with satellite launches and other things, but they were all there, and they were all wanting to communicate with the same customers that we communicate for the DoD side. So a lot of overlap in what's being done. Our commercial work supports a lot of our customers on the back end of the requirements that they're trying to meet for the government side on the front end. So there's overlap there. And then we've seen a lot of push on our DoD side of the business to move as quickly as the commercial companies, the commercial space companies that are working with the Space Force, launching hundreds of satellites into space a year versus 5 or 6 10 years ago, right? So we're seeing that push, and there's just been an incredible overlap between the two.
So what kind of innovation is being worked on as you plan to try and stay ahead of this rapidly evolving commercial space industry? And I kind of ask that question simply because so much of what happens in the civilian world often grows out of what is developed for the military. So are there things that you're working on as a commercial company for the military that will kind of help stay ahead of the curve on the commercial side?
Yeah, we're working in a couple different spaces, again, aligned to our core capabilities that I discussed earlier, but really in the DevSecOps arena, again, I believe that's going to continue to expand. We have some software factory offerings where we templatize and build out the infrastructure to stand up software factories very quickly. And that's our Appios platform. So really great things there. We are also working on a digital twin, digital thread product line in our company that's not ready for release, but we're working through that right now. We've worked that through some of our customers in the space industry, where it's augmenting reality using digital twins, where you can see and build out things in a virtual reality experience, and bring that to our customers so that they can continue to build quickly, deliver capabilities more quickly to the Space Force as we're moving forward. And then continuing on our discussions with Mesh1T, we've really continued to build out the capabilities around what we're calling data transport as a service. That's making sure that we put in all the right pieces and processes to move data as quickly as possible to meet Space Force and other DoD entities' needs moving forward. So I'd say those are 3 of the things that we're working through to help innovate for the Space Force and DoD.
As we sit here and talk about these things, I just can't help but draw a comparison with what's happening in the space domain awareness field on the commercial side, things like tracks that's being developed by the Office of Space Commerce. Is there a way that you could foresee maybe some of these technologies that you're developing now for the Space Force might be able to be adapted in some way to making that space domain awareness even faster and more robust than it currently is?
Yes, I think for space domain awareness, the key thing is about moving that data. We've We've talked with those guys a few different times, and everybody needs to be able to provide, downlink data or understanding of the space, all the space assets we have up there, whether they're friendly or foe, and moving that data around so it can be analyzed to move forward. So, yeah, definitely what we're doing with Mesh1T helps with those guys a lot. Trying to think. I'd say eventually, as their need for new applications or capabilities need to be delivered quickly, I would definitely say a lot of our DevSecOps offerings would be very applicable to them as well.
Just a couple of things more, and I'll let you go. Can you share any specific success stories or maybe case studies from Sev1Tech's recent projects? Have you had anything good you want to brag about?
Yeah, I think the one thing that's been so exciting for me is what I'm going to go back to. What I'm proud of Sev1Tech for is that we always deliver. And on the Mesh1T project, we delivered 23 sites in 18 months, which is just incredible. If you're thinking about the integration activities that have to go into secure facilities, SCIFs, engineering boards, and everything that goes into deploying in very sensitive environments, we did it very quickly, and it's been recognized by our community, the space community, and others in being able to deliver in the time that they need. They've gone out to other places, other government agencies, looking for these capabilities where can you get me connectivity in the next 6 months, 12 months? And they haven't been able to realize that. So coming to us being able to deliver quickly, it's been an extreme success, and I'm very proud of the team who got out there and made that happen. So very proud of that.
And just one thing more, and that's when we ask this of all of our guests. So I hope it doesn't put you too much on the spot, but we ask if you can look out into the next 10 to 15 years in the commercial space industry and the role that Sev1Tech might play in that, and tell me what you see.
I think you're talking about like commercial space industry.
Well, that, and also on the defense side.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we have to continue to protect our space assets. There's going to be a greater reliance on space assets over the next 10 to 15 years than we've ever seen before. We're going to see new capabilities that are really going to drive how we do business, how things work here on the ground. And we really need to protect those. And really, to my next point, I think there's going to be some sort of kinetic fighting, either ground to satellite or satellite to satellite in the future. I think 10 to 15 years out. There's been recent unclassified news articles of Russia putting capabilities in space, right? That could have kinetic threats to our space assets. I think we're going to see it, and we're going to have to deal with that in space as a battleground that we don't own. We don't own that space. So how do we say what is going to be our response action when something like that happens? I definitely see something like that, and I think maybe this is just a hope or a fun, exciting thing for me, but I think we're going to see more manned missions to like our LEO orbits for whatever reason. I think it's going to be more frequent. I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal as I don't want to say it's going to be like getting on a commercial aircraft and you can just go to LEO orbit, but I think it's going to happen more often where people are in space versus big missions to the space station or a big mission to Mars or a big mission to Moon. I think it's going to be something more frequent.
Well, with Jared Isaacman coming in as the administrator of NASA, and he's been to space twice on commercial missions, and then that Jeff Bezos has got to be looking at his new Glenn booster and saying, why do I let Elon Musk have all the fun?
Exactly. Yep.
So I don't think you're right. I think those are coming way before the next 10 to 15 years, personally. But Michael, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast.
Great. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, Tom.
Michael Fry is General Manager of the Air and Space Force Division of Sev1Tech. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Xterra podcast. You can subscribe to the audio version of the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and many other popular podcasting platforms. Be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any of our podcasts or any of our other videos. You can get daily updates on space commerce by subscribing to the Journal of Space Commerce on Substack at www.xterrajsc.com. And one thing more, be sure to connect with us on LinkedIn and follow us on X at XterraJSC. Until next time, I'm Tom Patton. Thanks for joining us.
I wanna go faster, faster. Hands in the air, we're gonna crash. Such a body actors like Galileo. The roof is looking glass, that's for reason. Our dreamers' eyes we gaze into a sense of purpose known by few. Like finding water on the moon.